I have told the story before in my Mega Man 11 video of how the early to mid 2010s were rough for Mega Man. Aside from games being cancelled, it just seemed like Capcom had pushed the franchise into the fridge. However, until Mega Man 11's release in 2018, there was a whole other game that was pitched as its spiritual successor and went into a fairly long development filled with hype, controversy, and disappointment. As a longtime Mega Man fan, of course I had to make a video about Keiji Inafune's new son that certainly gave him a lot of headaches during its creation. This is a look back to Mighty No. 9. Announced in 2013 as a crowd-funded Kickstarter game, Mighty No. 9's concept was very simple. This was intended as a spiritual successor to Mega Man, as the franchise was on its darkest days despite fans still being vocal. Capcom just didn't seem to care. Inafune had already quit Capcom in 2010, so he could watch from the outside perspective as the series went downhill. And with his notorious reputation and affiliation with Mega Man, he saw an opportunity to capitalize on the franchise once again. Putting up together a team of veteran Mega Man developers, everything seemed to be lined up for a solid Kickstarter campaign, with a goal of $900,000 set as the minimum required for the game to go alive. This was met in just 2 days. By the end of its campaign, Mighty No. 9 had over 400% funded from its original goal, nearly $4 million pledged by fans. Clearly, Mega Man fans were eager for some 2D action platformer. Unfortunately, this is when things started to get messy. There was 3 years between the goal being met on the Kickstarter campaign in 2013 leading to the game's release in 2016. As funding was still going on after meeting the initial stretch, new game modes and new ports were getting their goals met, something that would certainly increase development time. Although at that point the game didn't have a release date yet. Before the release, Mighty No. 9 had 3 delays in that time frame. Things were not looking good for them. Not only there were long periods of silence between Kickstarter updates, there was a lot of uncertainty on whether they could deliver what was promised and if the game was even going to release at some point. Did the game become bigger than what Concept and Inti Creates could handle? Finally, in June 2016, the game was out. Time to see if the long wait was worth it. From a gameplay perspective, Mighty No. 9 resembles early Mega Man titles the most. Aside from jumping and shooting, there's a dashing here as well, and that's where this game's unique gimmick comes alive. Back's main ability is called Accelerate. Upon weakening an enemy, you can dash through them and absorb a substance called Zell. Doing so will grant you temporary enhancements, such as increased damage, shooting through walls, faster movement, and more defense. While I found it to be an interesting concept to dash through enemies and all, I honestly don't find it to be that useful. It doesn't feel like the buffs you get from it make a lot of difference to justify chasing after it. And the way that enemy placement is done will often make you hit enemies that aren't ready to be absorbed very often. And on top of that, fighting bosses will require you to absorb them as well. After they take enough hits, you need to dash through them to permanently damage that chunk of health. This can be clunky to perform without taking damage in some of the bosses because of the knockback animation they will do upon getting hit, especially if they are next to a wall. The level design is average at its best. I can't help but feel like they give you a spark of genius, like something great is about to happen, but it never gets to that point. Like, there's the Capitol building stage where you have to hunt down the sniper robot who is firing at you from God knows where, but the whole level is just one long corridor, and you've gotta run to where the shots are coming and fire at him a few times. Then he will reposition to the side where you initially came from, and you just chase after him once again. Every other level gives me the same feeling, letdown, back to just being average. Thing is, for a game that was marketed as having veteran developers on board, The overall level design for the main stages feels uninspiring. There are some cool ideas for the EX stages, however. They are basically challenge levels you unlocked after progressing in the game. And there's an online mode as well, but I couldn't get any footage of it because there's simply no one playing it these days. But I recall it has always been laggy. Soundtrack is kind of a gray area for me. Veteran Mega Man composers such as Manami Matsumae and Ippo Yamada have wrote in most of the tracks. There's something nostalgic in the music, but it has a much more modern approach to it. I think overall, I wouldn't call it memorable though. Definitely not on the levels of Mega Man music. There's a few tracks that I feel actually engaged with it, but everything else feels rather flat. Looking back, I think Mighty No. 9 as a game got a lot more hate and criticism than it actually deserved. This isn't the terrible and awful game people made it out to be, but it's not a good game either. If I were to define the Mighty No. 9 experience in one word, I would say this game is uninspired. Definitely a 6 out of 10. It's clear to me that a lot of the criticism the games got came from the whole Kickstarter campaign. Being delayed 3 times and casting doubt if people's money were really going to be put out to good use made several people upset. Last I heard, once the backer rewards were out, which took quite a bit of time to happen, they weren't meeting people's expectations. And even the game's release was messy. Several digital game codes were not working and the Wii U port was notoriously bad. And the promised PS Vita and 3DS versions were pretty much quietly cancelled, even though they refused to admit so. This in particular is awful because those were stretch goals from the funding campaign. It's like they were just hoping people would forget about it. So much confusion and mistreatment for this project would certainly bring on a lot of hate to the game itself, whether it was justified or not. And it doesn't help that the final product turned out to be nothing better than an average attempt to carry on a legacy. Inafune's reputation took a big hit from all of this, and the Mighty No. 9 franchise as a whole has been dormant ever since, unlikely to ever get another shot. If anything, Capcom certainly took notice of all the fuzz about it and realized that their own Blue Bomber likely still had more potential than they thought. Mega Man 11 took shape years later and became a commercial success, putting the series back on its tracks. Mighty No. 9's legacy is a rough one. In the end, it just didn't live up to the expectations that were so heavily promised. Delays, mismanagement of resources, and poor communication with your paying fanbase, all leading up to a not so promising game. Certainly a lesson was taught after all of this, and ultimately we got Mega Man back. That's it for the video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, click the like button, and leave a comment too. It would help me a lot. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.